What is up, everyone, and welcome into your Celtics source. Mostly this is a Boston Celtics channel, but these playoffs have been nothing short of spectacular across the league. Blowouts, upsets, questionable calls from officials. Every series has been, worth watching. There haven't been even these, 1-8 matchups that have been sweeps. There are still takeaways from both sides that are worth noting. I know OKC blew out the Grizzlies, but SGA did not play well until Game 4, and there's obviously questions around the Memphis Grizzlies and what they are going to do with John Morant. I did a short little video the other day saying, is John Morant the guy that the Memphis Grizzlies want? I feel like there are some questions around his health and, whether he's, can play with others and, be mature enough to stay on the court. Um, but, I think we have to start with the most recent series last night and maybe, a series that more people should have picked the upset. Uh, and that is the Houston Rockets versus Golden State Warriors, right? And I think this series, it just comes down to experience in especially clutch moments, right? Steph Curry and Draymond Green, even, when they're not playing their best, can still step up in the big moments and close out a game, right? Draymond Green had a critical stop on Alfred Şengün the other day in isolation, and Steph's clutch shot off of a pump fake, shows basically their poise under pressure, right? Their their ability just to make a shot when it matters, having both Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry, is so much more than the Rockets have, right? Like, basically, you have two players that in the final moments of a game can step up and make a go ahead shot or a key bucket. And the Rockets don't really have a go to player that they can go to down the stretch, right? And then you have their defense as well, right? The Warriors executed, you know, mm, fantastic, switches and physical screens. Draymond Green has been unbelievable in this series. Gary Payton as well. They work together to neutralize the Rockets' sort of inverted ball screens. You know, I would also say the Warriors, their depth. When the stars were off, other guys stepped up. Whereas for the Rockets, there weren't many key contributions off the bench. You also have the more experienced coach. You know, Ime Udoka is a great coach, but Steve Kerr's been around for you know 15 years almost as a coach now, I think, and you also have the um the fact that he played. The Rockets are a very young team. You know, they're ready to handle the playoffs. This is the Rockets' first time in the playoffs, right? Obviously, for almost every team, when you first get into the playoffs, it can be a struggle. Um, right? We talked about their youth, their dependency on hot shooting, which they haven't gotten from the Rockets. Right? They shot just 48% from the field in Game 3. It helped them, but that's not sustainable. Um, we talk about poor late game execution because they don't have that go-to star. Shingun did a lot of ISO with Draymond Green. It didn't work out. Low percentage shots, defensive mistakes, fouls. A lot of physical players, but down the stretch, they tend to call some more fouls than early in the games. Right? There's a really bad one on where Draymond Green got the call, but Dylan Brooks doesn't get the call. Same situation. They're obviously going to give it to you know, the 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 well-known, more I would say advanced guys. Even though Dylan Brooks has been around for a while, right? He's had a history with foul trouble. The Rockets the rest of them are all young, so they're not going to get those types of calls. Um, especially with Curry being one of the best players to ever play the game, Draymond Green as well. And then I talked about it. Jalen Green, he has to find a way to step up and make some sort of impact consistently for the Rockets if they're going to have any chance to steal a couple games here. A big game that they need to win. Obviously it's win or go home, but you know, they have to. It has to be a dominant performance in Game Five. I think because they got to show that they have some sort of fight, especially because they're going to be at home. But I want to move on to the Nuggets and Clippers game, right? Jokic has been incredible. Nobody's ever going to say that, Jokic is never not going to be incredible because even on his bad days, he's still going to go for, 20 plus points, still going to have 8 or 9 rebounds, 8 or 9 assists as well. But it's been the lack of depth that has hurt the Nuggets, right? It took a just miracle shot from Jokic, and then obviously the putback, or not even putback, just the cleanup by Aaron Gordon to save that shot and win the game. Otherwise, the Clips would be up 3-1. But Kawhi has been huge. His health, just him being on the floor has changed the series drastically, right? If Kawhi had, missed part of the series, Nuggets are sweeping every single time. Um, I think, right, just I'm not gonna knock on wood he can stay healthy because I think, you know, this team has the best chance of knocking off the OKC in the second round if Kawhi can stay healthy. Um, right, I talk about the lack of depth on the Nuggets. But Russell Westbrook has been fantastic for this team. Ever since he went to the Clippers and now the Nuggets, he's been a spark plug off the bench, and I've talked about it before. Sometimes, he can get a little wild and miss a couple shots here and there, trying to go too quickly. Right, he only has one speed. It's full go every single time, which can work in some games, and in other games, he's one of those regular season players because you know he can out hustle a guy in the regular season, but in the playoffs everybody's on full go, so sometimes those stuff don't stand out as much. Um, but he's been great. You're still looking for more consistency from Jamal Murray to help Jokic out, and obviously their defense has been a problem all season long. Like, just Jokic's not a great defender. Jamal Murray's not a great defender. Russell Westbrook can be a problem sometimes defensively. He's better than those two, but still, three guys that you can attack, um, two guys that you can attack every time, one other guy that you can attack, in must needed moments, and that's really hard, especially because Kawhi Leonard's a great defender. Zubac is a great defender. Powell's a great defender. Harden's the only guy that can be a you know attacked more easily, but still, he sometimes can be very sneaky and get deflections and hands on other balls and passes, make it really hard. Moving on to Lakers Wolves. Luka Doncic, right? He might be better than Anthony Edwards overall. I think his scoring is just that much better than Anthony Edwards. But Anthony Edwards is easier to build a team around, right? First of all, he plays defense. Luka does not play defense whatsoever, right? He had to be called out, if we remember, in Game 3 of the finals last season. Um, but in this series, Anthony Edwards has outplayed Luka, right? 43 points in that game 4, I believe it was. Luka just 32 points, and the fact that the defense has been so inconsistent, as predicted, right? They had that stretch during the regular season where people were shocked at how well Luka was playing defense, but he's come back down to earth, as we thought he all would. Ever since the Celtics actually played the Lakers, they went into a defensive slide there. But Minnesota's defense has been holding up, um, which is the centers especially, right? Luka has not been able to absolutely destroy Rudy Gobert, Naz Reid, other centers. Um, for the Wolves, you know, I want to go back to the Anthony Edwards conversation for just a second. You know, I'm I want to put Anthony Edwards on that fifth spot, um, All NBA over a guy like Donovan Mitchell or maybe someone else, just because you know his maturity this season, right? He goes into the season, complaining a little bit, uh, annoyed that teams were doubling him and he wasn't a great passer and able to get out of it. And they struggled at times at the beginning of the season, with the addition of Julius Randle and new teammates and new scheme that they weren't uh, well prepared for and had to take time to gain that chemistry. But now they're playing incredible, and you know we didn't. I mean, the fact that they are on the verge of upsetting the Lakers here is incredible because first of all, the Lakers team, some had them going to the finals, some had them winning the finals with the addition of Luca. But we're now seeing why why the Mavs traded Luca, right? And it wasn't they knew that it was the scoring, but they're realizing that the defense and other things that Luca's unable to do make a huge part, play a huge part in winning championships. And so, I think Nico Harrison's going to be the happiest of all that the Lakers are going out in round one. What else? You know, the coaching experience, that's a big difference as well, right? Um, the Lakers have a new head coach in JJ Redick, and it doesn't matter whether it's a playoffs or not. JJ Redick, this actually has two things. One is you can't play your stars the full second half and play them almost 45, 46 minutes a game. LeBron James at age 40, Luka Doncic had a stomach ache and was puking before game 3 or something like that. Uh, you know, you can't play your guys that much, even in a playoffs, even in a much or even in a must win game. You have to give them some rest, or they're going to deteriorate down the stretch, which is exactly what happened. Right, and that just comes down to coaching experience, and what it also comes down to is JJ Redick's lack of trust in the bench of the Lakers. Because right, obviously, if he trusted them, he would give guys some rest and sub in those guys. And that that goes against the GM not putting guys around him that he trusts. That also means, right, we knew that Luca needed a center because he plays so well with centers for lob threats and easy dish out passes. And they tried to make that trade for Mark Williams earlier in the season, right after the trade, and it didn't go through. They had to resend it for health reasons and whatever. But that ultimately could be the reason why the Lakers are out in this series. Will be out if they obviously there is still a chance that they come back and win. Um, but it's because Luca doesn't have a center to play with. They also don't have that rim protection on defense without that center. Jackson Hayes is not a true center. We've been talking about this all season. Um, let's move on to the Eastern Conference now. You know, we'll start with Milwaukee Bucks and the Indiana Pacers. Right, Dame was out the first game with those blood clots. He comes back for game 2 and he's not great. Just because it's going to take time for him to get into rhythm, and then he goes down with the Achilles, which has been a problem with him for a while. He's had injury concerns for most of his career. He's going to derail the 2026 season as well, as obviously this year is a wash anyway. Um, you know, should he retire? Right? Obviously he wants to play, but he's 37, 30, 36, 37. It's clear that, Dame and Giannis, it didn't work out. Right? They had 2 years and, every other team got better and, they were unable to find a way to get past the second round, actually. Um, I believe. No, they were unable to get past the first round. They lost to the Heat in 2023, and then in 2024 they lost to the Pacers round one. But should Giannis should he ask out? Right? He's played his whole career in Milwaukee. Milwaukee is that's the fear of a being a small market team is your player can you know obviously he would have to be traded, but like it's a players league, so he'll be able to do that if he really wants to. Um, he right the championship window for him is closing quickly. This team, the championship window is over, so you gotta either rebuild the whole team, and that's gonna take a year or two to get back in the mix, and then that's 2 more years on Giannis. And so, and it's evolving game. You need shooters around him, which the Bucks don't have much of. They tried to do that by getting what was his name from the Wizards? Forget his name. His name is I believe it is what was his name? His name is um oh that's right. It is the why am I blanking on his name right now? Yo, someone help me out here. Uh what's his name? Come on. Um oh, that's right. Kuzma. What am I doing? Um right, Kyle Kuzma, you know, uh I would say no, he hasn't been much of a help. They haven't been able to get him shots, and that's part of their scheming. That's part of him just being not aggressive, right? If the Bucks want to have a chance, they have to find a way to get him involved, and then obviously you got to slow down the Pacers, who have just been electric on offense. Um, you know, one more big game series here, and then we'll do a little bit on the Celtics Magic, a little bit on the Cavs, Heat, um, the Knicks and Pistons. Um, just a terrible no call in Game 4 against where Josh Hart didn't get a foul on Tim Hardaway Jr. as he was shooting up that three. Um, to end the game. This series could easily be a 3-1 series the Pistons way. Instead, it is a 3-1 series the Knicks way. There are not many of those series where every game is that close. Same with a lot of these series. It's very close, decided by, within 5 points. The refs have, been told to stay out of these games, which, for the most part, is better. You don't want to, have the game being called in the ref's hands in the final moments. But then you have games like this where they just don't call anything when it should be called. So there's you really got to find that fine line between the two. And I don't know if there is one, but it's been a big issue in this series, and obviously it's been a big issue in that one game, controversial game where the Celtics lost. Not that the Magic played the worst game in the Celtics. Celtics had a terrible game. Um, but like very similar to the Rockets and Warriors series, right? You have two playmakers that can score in the Knicks versus the one for the Pistons, and obviously you have the experience issue as well. But Carl Anthony Towns was just huge down the stretch for the Knicks. Two big threes to you know basically not seal the game, but you know keep them in front, and then obviously it came down to that final shot. But we have to talk about Cade Cunningham, right? Cade Cunningham is I don't think quite on that level of Anthony Edwards yet, but he's been also fantastic in these series. Um, but he just doesn't have the guys around him yet, right? A very young team. They tried to bring in some guys, Malik Beasley, Hardaway, to provide some veteran experience and some shooting. But it's one of those teams where they're just a very poor offensive team besides Cade, and that makes it really hard to win in this league, which is a offensive. It's not even that it's an offensive driven league. It's just sometimes you just need a bucket, and when you double a best player like most teams do when a team only has one good player, as in the Pistons. You got to get someone else to step up, and just nothing has been falling for the Pistons. Um, quickly, Celtics Magic. Celtics have to finish it out tonight. I'm actually going to do a live pregame show starting at 8, so tune in for that. But the Celtics have to close it out so they don't keep packing up these injuries. Keep them healthy against the what I'm presuming is going to be the Knicks second round, and then probably the Cavs. The Cavs have looked fantastic. I mean, their offense has just been incredible. I would say that their offense has been the best offense in the entire playoffs so far. Two huge, um, you know, things, interesting things going on in Miami with Pat Riley conversations. Should he, what do you do? Obviously, he's the GM and or owner of the team, but you know, it's been it's going to be pretty bad. Nobody wants to go to Miami for some reason right now. Nobody wants to play under Pat Riley. He's past his prime in owning a team and uh, being the GM. So they got to figure that out. I would think Eric Spoelstra should become the GM. He's just a fantastic coach, as we all know. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Live show, pregame show tonight. Tomorrow, we'll do a series recap if the Celtics win. If not, we'll do some more sad Game 4